I think I did.
Okay, yeah, we're good. Sorry about that, Sean.
Okay. Yeah, no
We're
worries.
good. Thanks.
Absolutely. So today we're going to be talking a little bit first about our system partners, who we are, who we work with, and how we can assist you. We're going to talk about the internal responsibility system and the law, kind of get a foundation of where we're pulling some of the information that we're going to be talking about today. Then we're going to be talking about health and safety representatives and joint health and safety committees for some that might be on the call, and then free resources to help you from here. So if you've never heard of workplace safety and prevention services, that's quite okay. We are one of four health and safety organizations across the province, and we aid in agriculture, service, and manufacturing. We serve 171,000 member firms and over 4.2 million workers in Ontario. We aid with support for compliance in both federal and provincial regulations, and we offer consulting, training, guidance, and resources to protect businesses and workers. So today, if you have any questions after today's webinar, feel free to reach out to us through OFEGA and Ben, and we'd be more than happy to assist you. You've probably heard of our other partners in the health and safety system in Ontario with the WSIB, Workplace Safety and Insurance Board, and the Ministry of Labor, Immigration, Training, and Skills Development. That one's a mouthful. Together, we form the occupational health and safety system in Ontario. I like to call us the nice part of the government or the prevention side. I can't give you a ticket, an order, or a fine. I am here as a free value-added resource to you to help you navigate legislation and also educate you on duties, responsibilities, and decipher some of the more confusing aspects of legislation in Ontario. So, before we get started, why is safety so important? So you'll see on the screen there, that's a picture of BMO Field in Toronto, which is very busy these days. And there's a multiplier of seven there. So we're talking about, health and safety, but this is a nice visual to show how many people in Ontario get injured to the point of either losing time from work or needing immediate medical assistance. Each year, almost 200,000 workers will be injured to that point in Ontario. This does not include first aids. This does not include near misses. This does not include denied claims. This is just the approved ones. So you can see just from this photo, seven stadiums at BMO Field full would represent the number of people that will be injured this year in Ontario. Again, needing further assistance or supplementation of their wages. So when we're talking about health and safety, it's a huge impactor across all sectors in the province. The other thing is when someone gets injured on a farm, a factory, a retail shop, it has wide-reaching impacts. Not only does it affect that worker, it also affects uh, the families of the worker, the community of that worker, those that may have been involved in an incident or saw the incident take place. So again, there's a ripple effect from just that one person. And this is why we spend the time to ensure that each worker goes home safe each and every day. So when we're talking about health and safety in Ontario, the foundation of what we're talking about is this, the Occupational Health and Safety Act. It's also known as the Act, the OHSA, the Green Book, and it has regulations detailed for specifically how different work is to be conducted safely. It also explains the legal responsibilities of everyone in the workplace and establishes measures and procedures for dealing with certain workplace hazards. It also provides for enforcement of the law where voluntary compliance has not been achieved by an employer. So, when we're talking about health and safety, one of the things that, going back to that soccer field, similar to a soccer team, health and safety is a team sport, not a single person sport. So, for example, let's say that you have two soccer teams taking the field. One team sends out their fully staffed team, their forwards, their midfielders, defenders, goalkeeper, their training staff and coaching, and so on. And the other team decides, you know what? We're going to just send out the goalie because goal is in his title too, so he needs to step up and score goals too. Which team's going to win? Obviously, the first one. And I know that's a ridiculous example. However, you'd be surprised how many times I've seen in the real world where all health and safety is left to one person, whether that's a worker, supervisor, the employer, health and safety representative, or the health and safety manager, since, I mean, health and safety is in his title. This is his job. When we're talking about effective health and safety, though, health and safety is very much a team sport. It's not a one-person sport. This is the foundation of health and safety law in Ontario, and the OHSA sets out those duties. Employers and workers share responsibility for health and safety in the workplace. So, at a kind of 30,000-foot view, the employer at the end of the day is responsible for anything that happens inside of the workplace and are responsible to provide an environment that establishes the health and safety program and policy and is responsible for, again, maintaining that within the workplace. The next layer is supervisors, and they share what I call a extension of responsibility with the employer. They may not draft out the policies and procedures, but they are responsible to enforce the programs, monitor the programs, and communicate it effectively to workers. Workers also have responsibilities to comply with and participate in workplace health and safety and bring any concerns to the attention of their supervisor or the company. Then you'll see on the right-hand side there the Joint Health and Safety Committee or the Health and Safety Representative. They do have responsibilities. However, they monitor the system and make recommendation to the employer and supervisor. And they support communication between levels of the internal responsibility system. They are there to advise and to communicate, not to enforce. One of the things that you may see in agriculture, however, is a lot of the act may not apply. Now, while that is true, there is something inside of the Occupational Health and Safety Act uh, in both the employer and the supervisor's responsibilities. And that is to take every precaution reasonable under the circumstances to protect workers from harm. When I worked in agriculture, although there wasn't very many regulations that applied to us under the farming reg, this still applies. So if a worker is severely injured or killed, or there's a Ministry of Labor visit, this is usually what a ministry officer will cite if they draft any orders or charges. So although you may not be required to do certain things under the Act, it may be reasonable under the circumstances to put things in place to ensure the safety of a worker rather than just leaving it to chance. Part of that is providing basic occupational health and safety training to all supervisors and workers listed in Regulation 297. So, a little bit more in depth. As the employer, you are responsible to tell workers about any hazards that they may come in contact with in the workplace and how to work safely. Make sure every supervisor knows their duty to manage health and safety and is familiar with any policies or procedures that they will be tasked with enforcing. It's also important that you create the health and safety policies and procedures so that everybody is on the same page and there's no guessing game. You're also responsible to make sure that workers use and wear the right protective equipment to do their job safely and efficiently, and make sure everyone is following the company health and safety procedures and the Occupational Health and Safety Act. Supervisors also have responsibilities, and you'll notice that some of these are very similar to the previous slide. To tell workers about hazards and dangers in the workplace, make sure that workers do what the law says and follow workplace safety procedures, making sure that workers wear and use the right protective equipment, and take every precaution reasonable to protect workers from harm. So you'll notice again that there is a shared responsibility and authority between the employer and the supervisor. This is why it's so important that you educate your supervisors on their duties and responsibilities and how to effectively use a health and safety representative inside of the workplace, which we'll talk about in a few slides. Workers also have responsibilities to do what the Occupational Health and Safety Act says and any workplace procedures, wear and use the right protective equipment, work and act in a way that won't hurt you or any other person, and report any hazard that you find in the workplace to a supervisor. One of the things that you do need to educate your workers on across the board is their three rights. Those rights are the right to know, the right to participate, and the right to refuse unsafe work. The right to know means that all workers have the right to know about job-related hazards, the way in which these hazards could harm them, and how to properly control these hazards. The right to participate, which we'll be focusing on in today's webinar, is the process of recognizing, assessing, and controlling hazards, and become the health and safety representative or be elected to the Joint Health and Safety Committee. And then lastly, the right to refuse unsafe work, that workers can refuse work that they believe can put themselves or another person or worker in danger. They must follow an outlined procedure and tell you or their supervisor if they are using this right, and you are responsible to conduct an investigation should a worker use this right. Now, when it comes to health and safety representatives and the Joint Health and Safety Committee, for most of you on this webinar, you don't have to worry about the Joint Health and Safety Committee. Very specific farming is what qualifies underneath of the Joint Health and Safety Committee. And for those that are members of the OFVGA, those would include potentially mushroom farming or greenhouse growers. The rest of you that are doing orchards and fields and berries and tender fruit, things like that, do not need to worry about the Joint Health and Safety Committee. However, the health and safety representative is something that is a requirement, which we'll jump into now. So if you have 1 to 5 workers, there is no legal requirement for a joint health and safety committee or a health and safety representative, or if you're using a designated substance. Most of you don't need to worry about that. Now, this is where things start to cross into, do we need a health and safety representative? If you have 6 to 19 employees, you are required to have a health and safety representative from the workplace who does not exercise managerial activities or functions. This person does not have to be certified in Ontario. However, it would be reasonable to educate them and train them on their job duties and responsibilities as the health and safety representative. Again, if you are above that in the 20 to 49 and 50, but you are not in those areas of farming that I mentioned of mushrooms or greenhouse growing, you do not need to worry about the Joint Health and Safety Committee. You would continue using the health and safety representative. Now, if you are a larger operation and you see value in using a joint health and safety committee, I would highly recommend you using it because the more different perspectives you have and the more people available you have to address health and safety concerns in the workplace, the better. So, what is a health and safety representative? A health and safety representative is a worker who, under the Act, identifies health and safety problems at work and makes recommendations to correct these problems. So, again, when we're talking about who this person is, what they do, this is a worker who is selected by the workers to represent them. This person cannot be a lead hand, they cannot be a supervisor, they cannot be the owner. Um, they have to be a worker representative. Again, as I mentioned, the Joint Health and Safety Committee only applies to you if you are in some livestock, mushroom farming, and greenhouse in agriculture. So again, the health and safety representative is where the focus is for your organizations. So how is this person selected? So again, this person is selected and chosen by the workers. This can be done through a ballot box vote or other means of selecting a representative. However, and this is usually the case, if you only have one worker that desires to be the health and safety rep, they're simply acclaimed. The worker generally serves for a minimum of 1 year, but for your own organization, you can put in a policy for a greater term if you so choose to. Once this person is selected, they must be paid during their job duties and functions. So let's say, for example, they get done their normal job duties, whether they're a harvester or, a packager, what have you, and now they're going to do their inspections. Those inspections are still paid work under the Occupational Health and Safety Act, and they must be paid for that time. This also includes investigating any accidents or attending any type of a workplace refusal. That is paid time because it does constitute work under their job duties and responsibilities as a health and safety representative. The main purpose of the health and safety rep, again, is to identify workplace hazards. This is usually done by inspecting the workplace. The Act states that the representative shall inspect the workplace at least once a month. Talking to workers about their health and safety concerns is a great way to find out what hazards might be getting missed. Again, one of the things that I used to do in the private sector when I was in agriculture was I would train my health and safety committee, talk to workers. Here are some practical questions that you can ask workers to see if they have any concerns. Sometimes workers might not be comfortable going to a supervisor because there may be conflict that you're not even aware of between a worker and a supervisor, and so they feel isolated that there's no one that they can approach. This also eliminates power dynamics that may off-put someone from reporting some type of hazard to you, the employer, or a supervisor. Having another worker there to support them and walk with them through the process is a great way to find out different areas of your facility or your farm that you may have not realized could be presenting a danger to workers. These representatives play an important role in supporting your internal responsibility system. They are not responsible to identify every hazard in the workplace. However, you can use them to start to change the culture of your workplace to be a more health and safety focused and conscious organization. So some of the other things that they can do is obtain information from you, the employer, under the act. So this means that they have the power to obtain information on things like if you've done any health and safety testing on workplace equipment, so things like annual inspections, maintenance, and so on. Uh, Machines or devices that may pose a danger to workers. Chemical or physical agents, again, that may pose a hazard to workers. They can ask for this information from you, the employer. If you are going to do any sort of testing, so let's say that you're doing maybe some noise assessment or maybe you're doing some chemical testing or anything like that of how it could affect a worker, the health and safety representative does need to be notified and provided with a report after that has taken place. Again, this is part of empowering that worker to help you ensure that you are checking all the boxes and keeping your workers safe each and every day. The health and safety representative can also make recommendations to the employer. The representative has the power to make these recommendations on how they see workplace health and safety could improve. They also have the ability to investigate work refusals and should be present if there is a work refusal at the workplace during the investigation. If there is a serious critical injury or a fatality, this individual should also be contacted for helping to during the investigation, and any of their findings must be submitted to the Ministry of Labor. They can also request information from the WSIB, Workplace Safety and Insurance Board, This representative, again, has the power to find out information about companies' compensation claims, not specific medical information that's protected under PIPEDA, but they can ask WSIB for some specifics about different types of injuries and claims and things like what's our most consistent area where injuries are happening, or what's the most common tool that's causing injuries, and so on. They also have the ability to accompany a Ministry of Labor inspector during any type of investigation or workplace visit. The other thing that the health and safety representative has the ability to do is to do a formal recommendation. Generally speaking, recommendations can be handled quite quickly. Quick wins, shooting you a text or an email of, hey, this was seen on the inspection today, just wanted you to be aware so that we can get it fixed, or so that we can talk to so and so about maybe having, a forklift rented while this one is taken out of service. Um, but sometimes a formal recommendation is needed. This is usually where there is a conflict in seeing how something should be done, or if there is something that's very, very complex, maybe that is outside of the scope of the expertise of both you and that health and safety representative. They could recommend in writing something like, I think that we should have some testing done by an ergonomist or by a hygienist on whatever the issue is. If this was ever to take place, you have 21 days to respond in writing, whether you will or will not be following their recommendation, why, and it must be signed and dated by you. Again, within 21 days, and that's calendar days, not business days. The other part that the health and safety representative is responsible for is, again, monthly inspecting the workplace at minimum. Uh, when they are getting set for doing inspections, there's 5 simple steps that they can follow. The number one is to prepare. So if you don't have a workplace inspection sheet, we do have templates that are available for free to help you start to set that up. But a great place to start is reviewing past inspection reports. Since we last inspected, has this been addressed or is it still an issue? Um, Other things that they can look at are incident reports, maintenance records, etc., to gather some information about things to keep an eye out for while they're doing their inspection. They should also be using, again, that tailored checklist to inspect different materials and equipment and operational areas on your farm, and so on. When they are conducting the inspection, they should walk through the entire facility or farm and not just doing, yep, check the boxes. They should be actively engaging with on-site workers and supervisors, asking about hazards or any problems they may have observed. Once they are complete in their inspection, they should review it with you and provide any recommendations that they see could be potential controls for addressing hazards that they see in the future. Again, they may recommend that someone like a hygienist or an ergonomist or a guarding expert be called in to help if something is outside of their expertise. One thing that is extremely important is all inspections need to be documented. There's something that is said in health and safety that is, if it's not documented, it never happened. So document, document, document. There are different types of online inspections now. One that comes to mind is called Safety Culture. You can create uh, customized inspection sheets and you can put them on a mobile device so that there's not paper getting lost or anything like that, and it's uploaded to a cloud. There's a lot of different ways that you can go about this now, but it's important that it is documented and signed once it is completed. And then make sure that both you and the health and safety rep are following up on any recommendations or corrective actions that are put into place. You don't just want to identify hazards, you want to control them and make sure that your workers are safe each and every day. Also, In the event that there is an incident investigation where someone has been critically injured or worse, it's important that your health and safety representative knows what they need to do, that they're aware of their legal responsibilities concerning the investigation and its reporting. Um, I would recommend that they get training in investigations and potentially make that person a a first aid trained individual and ensure that they're aware of any emergency numbers and have them on hand. Generally speaking, when there's been some sort of an emergency or something happens, sometimes workers will panic and go to a health and safety rep rather than their supervisor right away. So your health and safety rep should be aware of your incident reporting and emergency response plans of what needs to happen and who needs to be contacted next. Make sure that they're prepared and know where to get anything that they might need for an investigation, like a tape measure, a flashlight, a camera, or a cell phone to take pictures. And again, if an incident does occur where the Ministry of Labor needs to be contacted, first, obviously, providing care to an injured worker, but then helping to secure the scene, identify witnesses, gathering evidence, and also taking helping to take steps to ensure that something like this doesn't happen again in the future. One of the big things that you do need to do is train these individuals. Now, as I mentioned, there's no requirement for certifying these workers. In fact, there is no certification in the province of Ontario for a health and safety representative. However, WSPS does have an 8-hour training course that is $25 online, that is at your own pace to educate health and safety representatives on their job tasks and how to do them efficiently and safely. The other thing that you should do is educate other workers on who their health and safety representative is or members of the joint health their first day and how to contact them. Again, educate your workforce on the role of the health and safety rep and how to properly report hazards and incidents. Again, you want people reporting hazards and incidents to their supervisor, but making sure that workers also know the health and safety representative is there to support them should they need it. Again, we do have that 8-hour self-paced online program. This program helps equip health and safety representative with necessary skills and understanding the full scope of their responsibilities. You, as the employer, also receive a certificate of completion that you can keep on file should the need arise, and to show your due diligence as an employer. Some other ways that you can help your health and safety representatives or your joint health, for some of you, one thing, provide shadowing opportunities. Educate workers on various areas of the business that they may not be familiar with. So, for example, if I had someone in the packaging department that joined our joint health and safety committee, I asked that they be given some time to learn about other job duties and what goes on in other areas of the business and what hazards might be present that they're not necessarily used to or trained on. The other thing that's very important is that workers are trained on any hazards that they may come in contact with going into areas that they're not used to being in. Make sure that workers are trained on anything that they could come in contact with. Encourage worker interviews and audits of knowledge. One of the things that we used to do is we would have the health and safety rep follow up with new workers about 2 weeks, 30 days, and 45 days after that they were employed, checking on their knowledge of what they received in orientation, how they're doing, if they have any problems or concerns. This helps to build a health and safety conscious workplace, change the culture, and also empower your health and safety representative to support workers each and every day on the farm. If you are purchasing new equipment, bringing in new chemicals, or changing the way the business workstation setups are, or making significant changes, bring your health and safety representative in on the planning and solutions. Again, workers are more likely to follow workplace policies that they had a hand in developing. Also, any policies that you're creating, Allow the health and safety representative to review to see if they have any suggestions or recommendations before rolling them out. One of the other big things is sometimes what can happen with health and safety reps is, again, if there's a lack of training, they don't know what they're responsible for. They might think that they're an enforcement body and not a recommendation body, and they may start doing things that are outside of the scope of their work. That's why it's so important that A, they are trained, but B, that you have a policy for how the position functions, how to report concerns, and so on. This makes sure, again, that there's no confusion and that everybody knows who is responsible for what at the end of each day. Now, if you are interested in supporting your health and safety representatives a little bit more, we do have some ways that you can do that. We currently have free training at WSPS on effective workplace inspections. It's an hour long. Tractor training, also an hour long. Supervisor due diligence, effective workplace inspections and investigations, WMIS 2015, naloxone, and more. We also have templates of policies that you may need, and also inspections or incident reports so that you do not need to recreate the wheel. After today's session, some of those resources will be sent to you in an email, again, with a quick link reviewing everything we've talked about today on health and safety representatives, but also where you can find out where some of these templates and training are on our website. One of the other things that we have are a handbook generator. You can create an entire onboarding package for training people in health and safety compliance on your farm and in your workplace in as little as 30 minutes. This is an AI generated tool, and again, is a great place to start the health and safety conversation and journey with your workers and making sure that things are documented. Should you need proof of documentation if there was a Ministry of Labor visit or otherwise. If some of this is a little bit confusing, not to worry. Couple different options for you. Number one, WSPS is here to help always. We have different walkarounds that we can do, including free chemical assessments on site, um, ergonomic assessments, and walkthroughs that are totally free and complimentary. If you have questions about compliance and if you need a health and safety representative, please feel free to reach out to us. For smaller businesses that have less than 20 employees, we offer up to 10 hours of free health and safety consulting. So if you have questions about what you need to do or you just want a second set of eyes on things, we are here to help. And with that, we wrap up the information section of our webinar today, and I want to open it up for any questions from the audience. And thank you so much for your time today.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean. So if there are any questions, anybody please feel free to jump in and raise your hand. And just a reminder, as I said off the top, so we recorded this and we'll circulate that presentation after. And if there are any questions that arise this afternoon or whenever, please do feel free to get in touch with the OFEJ and we'll make sure that that question gets to Sean. And even just any general questions on workplace safety, we're happy to make the connection to Sean and the rest of his team at WSPS. So I'm not seeing any questions, so I think you're off the hook, Sean. Again, we really appreciate your time, and again, thank you everybody else for taking the time to join us in your lunch hours here. So thanks, Amy, and with that, I guess we'll wish everybody a great rest of the day. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Take care,
Thanks,
everyone.
Sean.
Thanks so much, Ben.